Hi there, it's Dave D from DaveD.com, where we help professional service providers sell more of their services, make more money, and help more clients. Well, in this training, I'm going to share with you how you can use hypnotic language to ethically control your prospects' mind. So let's talk a little bit about the ethical part of mind control because the two things don't seem to go together. The first thing, and it's a premise that I hold, is that the difference between manipulation and persuasion is intent. So if your intent is to sell something to someone that they don't want, that they don't need, that's not going to help them get the desired outcome that they're looking for, then that is manipulation and you are a con man. On the other hand, if you have a service that is going to really help someone solve a problem or get an outcome that they desire, then it's my belief that you have a moral obligation to use every single strategy that you can that falls under ethical guidelines to help the prospect say yes to your offer. So again, we're not using these strategies to manipulate a prospect. We're using these strategies to help our prospect become a client so that they can benefit from the service that we're selling. So the first thing we're going to go over is something I call positive affirmation statements. And these are designed to get the prospect to agree with you both consciously and subconsciously. You see, we want our prospect to say yes to us. We want them to nod their head, but we also want them to agree with us on a subconscious level because that's where a lot of persuasion takes place. Now, a lot of these positive affirmation statements are very well known and they've been used for years in sales training. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't work, that you just have to use them in a very mindful manner. So, some of the standard positive affirmation statements are when you add the statement, aren't you, isn't it, doesn't she, don't you agree, at the end of a statement that you make. Now, notice that I said that these are statements, they're not questions. So, the problem that people have, that salespeople have, or professionals have, when they use this type of statement, is that they turn it into a question. So, for example, the security of your family is important to you, isn't it? Well, when you make it a question, it comes across as totally manipulative because who is going to say no to that? That makes sense, doesn't it? Now, do you notice that I just used it right there? I said, that makes sense, doesn't it? I didn't make it a question. I didn't say, that makes sense, doesn't it? Right? So your tonality is really, really important. So as you say these statements, they are statements and not questions. So once again, you want to use aren't you, isn't it, doesn't she, don't you agree? That makes sense, doesn't it? And then slightly nod your head. When you do that, your prospect will also slightly nod their head and you'll get that agreement from them. Again, these are effective if used sparingly, but as always, a tactic known is a tactic blown. So you should sprinkle these in your presentation, no question about it, but you want to use them very, very sparingly. A new type of positive affirmation statement, though, is the LY positive affirmation statement. Now, what's exciting about the LY positive affirmation statement is it forces subconscious agreement, meaning when you use these words, which I'm about to give you, your prospect must agree with what you're saying. It bypasses their conscious defenses and goes directly into their subconscious, and you get agreement. And when you use these, they're not insulting to the prospect. And so there are many that I teach, but two that you can use immediately are the words naturally and the words obviously. These are LY words. And anytime you say the word naturally or obviously with a slight nod, your prospect will agree with whatever statement that you've made before it. So listen to the difference. Naturally, the security of your family is important to you. Obviously, you want to get the highest rate of return on your investment. You see, the prospect must answer yes to that. There is no tactic for them to figure out. Listen to the difference. You want to get the highest rate of return on your investment, don't you? Or obviously, you want to get the highest rate of return on your investment. Do you see the difference? Now, by the way, I'm not saying not to use the standard. Again, as I just mentioned, you want to use all of the strategies you can. But naturally and obviously are two that you can use that are going to bypass a prospect's conscious defenses and go immediately to their subconscious, and you're going to get a yes, especially if you nod your head. So I want you to think about this just for a second. Now, yes, you're going to get them to answer yes in their head, but you're also taking physical control over them by nodding yes, because you're going to get them to follow along with you, especially if you've developed rapport. And I'll be doing a mini training just like this on different ways that you can develop rapport as well. So again, use the LY positive affirmation statements. The final one we're going to talk about here today is what I call the mind reading technique. Now, this is how you can actually plant in your prospect's mind a thought that you want them to have. And here is exactly how you do it. You preface it with the words, "You might be wondering." You might be wondering, Mr. Prospect, how you're going to get this benefit, and this benefit. And then you name 3 benefits that you want your prospect to be thinking about. So do you see, when you say the words, you might be wondering how you're going to get this benefit, and this benefit. And of course, you're not saying this benefit, and this benefit. As I just said, you fill it in with what you want your prospect to be thinking about, the benefits you want your prospect to be thinking about. What happens is one of 2 things. The first is that your prospect, if the prospect is thinking of those benefits, well, you get credit for it. And the prospect says, yes, I am thinking of that. If they are not thinking about those benefits that you want them to think about, you've just planted it in their mind by using the words, "You might be wondering." Because when you say that, they have no other option than to think about the thing that you want them to think about. All right. I said I'm going to only do this last one, but I'm going to give you one more bonus. I was going to save this one, but it's too good to save. So I'm going to give it to you right now. And it's how to create emotional response with language. You see, selling in great part is based upon emotion. And if you can use illustrative words that generate an emotional response, then the emotional response that you want your prospect to have, not only does it make your presentation and demonstration more impactful and more interesting, it makes it more persuasive. And so you want to use metaphorical language. Now, we don't have time in this particular training because this is just a micro training on how to do this in depth, but I'm going to give you an example and something that you can think about. So a financial advisor or someone who's selling financial services could simply say, "A smart investor knows how to avoid the stinging pain of the IRS's whip." Do you see how that is more illustrative? It's more colorful. It's more emotional, as opposed to saying a smart investor knows how to reduce their taxes. Again, I'm saying the exact same thing, but by saying a smart investor knows how to avoid the stinging pain of the IRS's whip, it creates an emotional response. It makes the presentation more entertaining, more engaging, and more impactful. So what you want to be thinking about is, what are some of the common things that I say that everybody in our industry says, and how can I make it more emotional by adding emotional language to it? Well, if you enjoyed this video and you want more killer content like this, there's 3 things I want you to do. The first thing is like this video. It takes you a second, so just click the like. The next thing is subscribe to this channel. And most importantly of all, become a D-mail subscriber at daved.com. Every day you get an email with a short lesson that'll help you sell more, make more money, and help more clients. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.